Just transitioning consciously from whatever you were just engaged in as we meet this moment together, this space. Grateful to be here with all of you. And before we move into meditation today, I'll share just a few announcements. I'll be leading retreat next week, and so Jerome from our Sangha will be filling in as facilitator, representing the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition, and also to announce that we're going to start just once a month after our gathering, moving into a conscious dance and embodiment practice, and July 22nd is the date I picked for this month. For those who were able to stay, just an extra 30 minutes, okay? And the most important announcement I'd like to make today is that I would be grateful if we could all be sending prayers and gratitude and well wishes to Joanna Macy, to one of my dearest teachers. She's taken a turn for the worst in her recovery process, and it's not looking good. And so, prayers. Let's begin. In this moment and in every moment, with all that is going on, seemingly to appear going on around us, surrounding us externally, the Buddhist teaching, the way we approach sitting, and sitting as a way to show up in all of life, sitting immovable like a bold mountain. Kekafusa is the phrase Dogen used for this teaching. And so as we move into our practice today, an invitation to turn your attention within, an invitation to set aside any distractions, preoccupations, responsibilities from the day. And find your posture. A position that allows you to rest here in the sacredness of your own skin, here on this particular patch of earth where you are planted. And right here, sitting immovable like a bold mountain, Kekafusa, inviting yourself to begin to sense and feel into this invitation. Not bold as in rigid, not immovable as in static, but the way we talk about meditation in Zen is the both and of meeting every moment in complete beginner's mind, while also meeting each moment like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree in the moment of enlightenment. In other words, folks, we're not doing this for a later moment in time. This is actually not a practice of progression. It's a practice of liberation right now, right here, just exactly as you are, and just exactly as life is, exactly as our world is. So as we take in together a few deep and conscious breaths, allow yourself to recognize a little more relaxation, a little more space, to find your authentic expression, authentic to each of us. Of sitting like a mountain. Or the continuing settling. And remember the way that a mountain, in its stillness and vastness and majesty, holds space, welcome, for the complex biodiversity of life, of the ecosystem it supports and reciprocates with. And so allow yourself to listen and feel into the stillness, not even so much physical, but energetic, friends, that expresses welcome for everything that emerges. Notice what is here for you in the mirror of silence today. And whatever it is, welcome it. Know yourself as the energetic welcome that leaves nothing out. The complexity, the dynamism of whatever is moving through you this morning, even if it's boredom, welcome it. As we take in a deep breath together, just invite yourself to settle just a little bit more. Not being the breather, letting yourself breathe, not being the meditator. Softening effort, resting as the mountain. Give yourself complete permission to rest. meeting with respect, whatever sacred process, whatever natural process the ecosystem of your being is engaged in. The process of awareness expanding organically, unfurling, the process of letting go, or maybe the process of resisting and noticing resistance. The process of integration. The process of dissolving. The process of intimacy with what is. This is the core of practice. Let's allow the breath to deepen, deep down into the belly. If you'd like to, rest a hand on your heart, on your belly, or both. And through deep listening, notice what expression of kindness, of tenderness, of reassurance, or affection you need and your heart needs you to offer. Let's take a couple of minutes for that. And one more deep breath together. Inhaling and letting go, releasing. Inviting the eyes to open and first gazing out at the horizon. Noticing the quality of light before bringing yourself back to the screen and just taking a look around. Great to see all of you. And a reminder that next week I'll be on retreat. Jerome will be facilitating our group instead, and I'll be back the week after. Okay? And so I want to offer a teaching today about sitting immovable like a bold mountain in the field of community and community complexity, conflict, the messy stuff. How many of you have been bringing your practice to navigating both the great mess we are witnessing collectively and perhaps some messy stuff in your personal domain. Show of hands. So it feels to me like, as I sense into the energy of this time, the more disruption and this particular phase of disruption, there's a great potential for humans to move into scarcity mode and therefore threat, competition, othering, polarization. We are seeing so much of this right now. So a really important time for this teaching. And we may or may not move into breakout rooms today. There are some things I want to share, and we'll see what unfolds since I won't be with you next week, okay? In Zen, this teaching of Kekafusa, sitting immovable, bold, like a mountain, it's not about rigidity. It's not about the hard shell that blocks or defends. It's dropping into the radical equanimity available to each and every one of us in every moment that has all the room in the world for the multidimensionality of life. And that stillness of the mountain, it brings life, it brings complexity into unity, even just the complexity of one's self, all the different parts, and the complexity of what we can look out and perceive from a non-centered place and feel totally overwhelmed by, and see through binary perception, and see through opposites and binary. And from the mountain's perspective, there is an experience of unity. None of this is conceptual. It's to be understood through your direct experience, okay? There's a teaching in Zen about community being like a rock tumbler, Sangha being a rock tumbler, stones rubbing up against each other, because we learn from what we love in bearing witness to one another, and we also learn through how we rub up against one another's egos, separate self, personalities, different ways. And so in the rock tumbler, these stones rub up against each other and polish each other till we all come out beautiful. So we learn through our differences. This is really, really important to remember as we navigate the wider circles of community in a moment of great intensity. I just want to pause by just taking a conscious breath and ask how many of you have been humbled, maybe saddened, maybe just bearing compassionate witness to a great meanness out there. Yeah. From maybe the micro of just ways humans can act out in meanness and othering, to absolute sadism happening nationally and globally right now. Sadism. And so I want to first, to talk about this, share a Zen story that was shared with me long, long ago and just thought of the other day. And it's a story of a monk who is falsely accused of fathering a child by a young woman in the village. And the villagers, believing the accusation, bring the newborn to the monk and say, "How could you do this? You're a monastic, and how could you leave this young woman to parent a child on her own?" And accusation, accusation, accusation. The monk is aware he had nothing to do with this situation at all, but he accepts the child without complaint, caring for it with kindness and compassion, and develops great affection and care for this and all sentient beings. A little bit later, the truth is revealed, and the villagers return to take the child back. And once again, the monk responds with grace, with acceptance, with equanimity, still like a mountain. The phrase that he uses in both exchanges is that so? You're accusing me. Is that so? You're taking this child who I'm deeply connected with now back. Is that so? Okay? So just to pause and consider the potential of is that so? Over the past month, and I'll share that I didn't know if I would give this example to the community, and then I realized absolutely, without a doubt. So I'm going to start by saying, how many of you have experienced the benefit of really incredible neighbors, like what it means where you live to have absolutely incredible neighbors? I think it's one of the biggest gifts of life. It's incredible. We recently lost a neighbor who was one of our dearest friends, and that person who just would come by and say, would text, can I bring by some fresh baked banana bread, and want to go out into the garden together, and can we just come over to chat and laugh? And we also, in our community, had one neighbor in particular who was incredibly unwell and incredibly maybe threatened by other people's wellness, and mean, at times very, very, very scary and dangerous. So our community had council meetings about this neighbor, and our community talked to the sheriff regularly about this neighbor, and we all did our practice with how to engage. Show of hands if you've ever navigated a neighbor or someone in your community who actually felt very dangerous. Yeah. So Mark and I were talking a while ago about that one relieving aspect of no longer living in the home we loved in North Carolina, a break from that human, and our practice around her, even though we practiced always seeing her unwellness and seeing her as she was, and the practice was very much staying out of the way. Okay. And for whatever reason, over the past month, she's turned her attention and her upset back to us. And so there have been wild postings all over the local exchanges there and social media, creating lies and stories and naming us and giving our address and our home, and very dangerously trying to gather people. And it's been kind of astounding, like stories and things that I've read, and I've had this feeling of, what? Is this really the world we live in? And of course, externally, we're all seeing such similar things. In terms of lies being posted on social media, and also just meanness being posted in ways that gathers group support. People with me? So being in the line of fire with this has been a really, really affirming practice, because number one, I know that I have zero interest whatsoever in engaging with anyone else's drama. Bottom line, if you have that interest, you will engage. Your mind will engage, your thoughts will engage, your emotions will engage. You'll say, I'm setting this down, and you'll pick it back up. If you're really serious about not engaging with drama, it is a full-time practice. Not engaging with your own drama, not engaging with the drama of others. Across the board, friends, please do not ever consider engaging with the drama of Facebook or social media, ever, if you want to model practice, okay? So it's been a really good experience to go to, is that so? Is that so? And to recognize the practice of when we let go of taking anything personally. My first teacher of Zen used to talk about this as being like Teflon, and that's an important aspect of fierce compassion. Again, it's not the rigidity or defense behavior of the metaphor I used of the stillness of a mountain, but it's saying I am so deeply rooted in what is true, in kindness, in essence, in the clear seeing that knows everything can arise on this mountain ecosystem and everything has its place, but to not take personally any of what is arising. So just to pause, to take in a deep breath. How many of you have had the experience of being instrumental in diffusing someone's flammability? Let's start with your own flammability. How about disarming yourself? Disarming others? How about disarming in the heat of grave conflict? This is the way of being that we need to practice in our world, in our lives, and it starts with how we meet ourselves. And I offer this to you from my heart because the field in my lifetime has possibly never been this flammable, this stirred, and it can seem oh so real that I need to engage on that reactive level. From the stillness of the mountain, okay, to consider the generosity, mountain as protector of life, your job as protector of life wherever you are. And also that not being a bypass, some notion of premature transcendence. We have to be present with everything that is part of the multidimensional field of conflict, of difference. So in this situation, we would have conversations with our neighbors and together talk about what the best way to disarm. Well, it starts with disarming ourselves and not taking any of this personally and knowing that we've got each other's backs and just standing in truth. I had the experience when I was a monastic a number of times of meeting personally that story of the monk and the pregnant woman. Everything happens through feedback in community. And as a silent monastery, each of us monks had certain times when we got accused of something we had nothing to do with. But so-and-so thought, or it seemed like if we're head of the kitchen, we might have had something to do with it. And in each of those times, there are about 3 times I can remember that happening to me, the old tendency would be, no, I can't be seen this way. I care too much about how other people see me. My whole well-being is dependent upon how other people see me. I can't be seen in this light. This is injustice. This is not true. I'm not the one who, at monasteries it was something like left the water on in the garden longer than it's supposed to go, okay? Whatever it was. And the freedom, each of those times of getting it, that actually it doesn't matter. I see myself clearly. I don't have to fight for just way of being seen or argue in this situation or even care how I'm being seen. I see myself clearly. And I'm willing to stand in the humility that says, is that so? Is that so? You think I'm the person who? Is that so? And of course, situations can come to their own closure and clear seeing, but can people sense the humility and also the generosity of becoming a little bit more of an is that so human? Yeah. We take ourselves so personally. We take how we are seen so personally. I shared at the beginning today that Joanna Macy is not recovering well this time, that her process has taken a turn, and we're all holding her in prayer, in love. I'll invite us to pause in a couple of minutes to do that together. But years ago, I had one of the most important conversations of my life, of Joanna and I wholeheartedly exploring together the teacher of failure and the gift of failure. Because failure, each time I'm going to say think we fail, because I don't actually believe in failure, but each time we think we fail, it is such a brilliant and clear mirror for us to see our egos in action, how personally we take this being at every step, and the way we are perceived through the good, bad, right, wrong lens. So the gift of failure, just like the rock tumbler metaphor I used for Sangha, for community. The rocks rub against each other, the bumpiness of different things we might react to in each other's personalities or egos, that's what helps to polish the whole community, to polish us, to return us to where we are. Now, if we lose track of what community actually is, what Sangha actually is, and Sangha, community, it's a verb, then we'll find a room for drama. If you're finding in any of the communities you're engaged in a yes to the portal of drama, then that's for you to investigate. Who is this part, and what is the juice I'm getting from this? And is this not the most boring juice a human being can turn to in life? Am I really still choosing this? But show of hands, I like to go to just pure honesty in our communications. How many of you have engaged in trauma recently in community? And so that can be as simple as gossip, that juicy thing we're going to get gossipy about. Or that can be about the finger pointing that makes more real than necessary the egoic structure of another person. It's about them. Okay? I really like to remember community and from the macro to the micro, how we relate with ourselves, as an invitation for essence. What is the essence that's here, the invisible field of connectivity, the life, the vitality, the universal intelligence of that living field beyond any of the forms that arise from that field. It's field consciousness. Okay, and we get to enjoy all the forms within it. Like we get to enjoy all the parts of ourselves, but it's the field, the essence. And that's what mountain-like stillness puts us in touch with. Okay? So let's pause